Yeah, like I said, my name is Kemi Oluleye. I hope you can hear me. Um, Good. I will be coordinating. With me, I've got two other of my colleagues here, Dr. Thaddeus and Maria, who will also be supporting. Um, I will just quickly give us a summary of how this evening is going to run. We're estimating about an hour, 30 minutes. The speaker is already with us. She will have a presentation for about an hour. Then we'll have another 30 minutes for question and answer. We encourage that those who have got questions, or if your question comes up in the course of the presentation, just drop it in the chat box. Dr. Thaddeus will be collating all those questions, and at the end of the presentation session, he will come up to read out the question and we will give the speaker time to respond to those questions. I wouldn't want to waste much of our time. I will hand over to Maria, who will be introducing to us the speaker, and thereafter the speaker will just get started. Thank you very much. Maria, please.
Thanks so much, Kemi. Hi, Stephanie. It's always nice to see you. Yeah, I think I got some of my vibe from Stephanie. I've known her for more than up to 2 years, or if not more than that. Stephanie, I for many of us that are on the NSCF WhatsApp group, I've managed to put some biography about Stephanie on the group. And I'm just going to read a couple of that. Number one, I must let you know, Stephanie is a very eloquent speaker. She knows her stuff. She's a property investor, and she's a co-founder of an award-winning property management and development company called HMO Heaven. I'm not sure if any of us have, you would have seen it on Facebook or LinkedIn. And she's also the co-founder of Rent to Rent Success, which has inspired hundreds of people, including myself, to get started in property. She's currently running this alongside her sister, Nikki Taylor. They grew their rent-to-rent business, secured contracts worth over 2 million in over 3 years. So if you're looking to build a multi-million pound business, you need to listen and you need to take some note tonight. And I'm not going to take a lot of our time because I know Stephanie is prepared. She's got a lot to cover tonight. And hopefully at the end of tonight's seminar or webinar, I will also be talking about a book that I will highly recommend. But I will leave that to the end of the webinar. She's the author of that #1 best-selling book, Rent to Rent Success, and she hosts a couple of broadcasts. And for some of us that are on Clubhouse, she's someone you want to connect to as well. Using our Nigerian terminology, I would say she's a guru in this area, and she's one of the big guns in the area of property investment. And it's such a privilege to have you, Stephanie, with us tonight. I mean, I can go on and talk about Stephanie, but I will pass on I'll hand over to Stephanie to do what she knows how to do best. And like Kemi said, please, if you have any question, please put it in the chat, and we will be catering for that at the end of Stephanie's talk tonight. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Kemi. Thanks, Maria. And it's been amazing getting to know you, Maria, over the last 2 years. Your energy is just so exciting and inspiring. And it did not surprise me when you were successful so soon. And basically, the landlords fell in love with Maria because you don't really have any choice. But what I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to share my screen. And as Maria said, it's a presentation. Something that really excites me is how to start to make money from property, even if you don't have a lot of money to start with. And as Maria said, you can do it without even buying the properties. This kind of blew my mind when I found out about it. I was already in my 40s, but it's so exciting to see so many young people who are coming into this, decades before we did, and really building themselves up. And, in particular, people from African and Caribbean backgrounds, the property ownership is very low, 36% compared with 63% for people from a white background in this country. And so I think building up, making money from property, and then going on to buy your own properties as investment assets is so important. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. As Kemi and Maria have said, it is an interactive session, so I do want you to ask your questions. So do ask your questions in the chat and I will answer them as we go through. Don't go away with your questions. That is what tonight is for, because you could join us here live. We really want to answer your questions. So now I'm going to share my screen and begin the presentation. Can you see my screen? Just
yes, we can see.
Yes,
we
Stephanie.
can.
fabulous.
Yes.
It's working. That's good news. So we're here today, Rent to Rent Success, and it's all about the ethical way to make money from properties that you don't own. And today what we're going to talk about is model magic, the magic in the rent to rent model, how it works for others, how it can work for you. We're talking about mind your own business. This is how to set up your property business quickly, easily, and legally with little money, even if you don't have previous business or property experience. We're talking about magnetic marketing, how to attract the owners and agents to you, even if you're new or even if you're shy and don't like selling. We're talking about how to make the deals and how to analyze the deals in minutes and know that they're going to work for you. And we're talking about how to manage and multiply, how to outsource and to automate to grow your profit and not your work as you grow your business. Now, I just want to take you back in time a little bit. So this is me. I'm 18 here. This is my young son, Alex. He's a grown man now. And I really struggled for a long time, both financially. And I probably would have carried on along those lines indefinitely. I did get onto my feet eventually and get a professional job. And but I was very much on the 9-to-5 basis and just, you know, running to stand still. And it was only a phone call a few years ago in 2016. This is my mum in the middle and my sister on the right. And what happened was I was getting ready for work. I lived in Bristol and I was going to work in Bristol at the Lloyds Bank, and I lived by the harbour side and I could walk to work. And my mum called me one morning and I was getting ready to go in. I had a presentation that day, but when she called me very early in the morning, I was in a rush because I wanted to get into work. I wanted to get in early. I was worried about this presentation. I didn't give her a lot of time. And I got into work, I did the presentation, and then in the afternoon, I'm sitting at my desk and looking out. It looked out over the harbour, plate glass windows. I'm looking out over the harbour and I'm sort of patting myself on the back, you know, saying, oh, Stephanie, you know, your presentation went well. You're better than you thought. And then my mind just quickly switched to my mum and I thought, oh, my mum called me. And you know, when people start apologizing for calling you, because that was the way that I was answering her. I wasn't giving her time. I wasn't giving her space. She wasn't feeling very well. She just was reaching out for a bit of love and support. And I was giving her short shrift. And that was when it was sometimes these ordinary moments happen, but you just realize you've had everything back to front. You've had everything upside down. And I had made this job at the bank so important. But what I realized in that moment was nothing's more important than your family. And at the time I was 45 and I just wanted to say to myself, I want to be able to be there for mum. How can I do that if I'm always at my job in Bristol and my mum's in Birmingham? And I knew that business was the answer, but I didn't feel like I knew how to be a business person. But I thought maybe I could do something in property, because property, I knew people who became successful in property by accident. You know, they bought a house and then they bought another one, or they kept, you know, or they even just lived in one and it just became very, it went up a lot in value. So I thought maybe even me, maybe even someone without skills in business could make property work. And having that moment with mum really gave me a bit of fire in my belly, and it gave me the courage to sort of have a try. And since then, I joined forces with my sister Nikki, and we created a thriving rent-to-rent business with contracts worth over £2 million. We sacked our bosses. That was one of the most exciting parts. We systemized our business, and we employed a team of people, to run the business for us. And then we bought our own multi-million-pound portfolio, including commercial properties and multi-unit blocks of flats, basically. And this is what I love helping other people to do now. This is our rent-to-rent business. It's a property management business. It's called HMO Heaven. And as I say, it's award-winning. And one of the things that we're proud of is that the systems that we've put in this business, I mean, we've outsourced it to other people, but the standards is still high. And on the right, you can see the Google reviews. When you Google HMO Heaven, all these Google reviews come up of the service that the housemates and the landlords receive. The great thing about this is we only started this in 2016, and it's crazy what you can do in just 5 years. And due to our success in property and the background that we've had, we have been featured in the Telegraph, the Entrepreneur, Business Insider, and yes, the Sun and the Daily Mirror as well. As Maria has been on the Rent to Rent Success podcast talking about her journey, and we have lots of other guests on the podcast talking about how Rent to Rent has changed things for them. So if you do listen to podcasts on Apple, on Spotify, and Google Podcasts, everywhere, search for the Rent to Rent Success podcast and do follow us or subscribe to the podcast so that you get alerted when the new things come up. And as Maria said, she's got a surprise for you later on, but we do have the #1 best-selling book in Rent to Rent, and we've got this special limited edition copy with the gold on it. That's not available on Amazon, but it's the #1 book on Amazon for Rent to Rent, and it's got over 160 5-star reviews. What we're going to talk about today, and what's also in the book, is the Rent to Rent Success System. It's a 6-step system that takes you from knowing nothing right through to being able to run your business. And it's a simple, repeatable system that breaks down everything you need to know to be successful. So I'll just run through it. What we're going to talk about today is, first of all, we're going to talk about model magic. This is how the rent model works. First of all, we need to answer the question, what is rent to rent? This may be, for some of you, the first time that you're ever hearing about this. If it's the first time for you, just put a 1 in the chat box. If this is the first time that you're hearing about rent to rent, or that you're getting a definition of rent to rent, put a #1 in the chat box so I know. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes, there are quite a few people. So it's exciting. I remember when I first heard about it, you're probably rubbing your head already thinking, how is this even a thing? Yes, we've got Bishop, we've got Kemi, we've got Chi, we've got Adianju, we've got Tolu. There's so many, so thanks. Oh dear. So what is rent to rent? You rent a property. That bit's simple. You pay the owner a guaranteed rent and you take on paying for the bills. You rent the property out to tenants for higher rent than what you're paying to the owner, and you get to keep the profit in the middle. Now there's 3 ways to do it, but usually you're doing it by HMO. That means it's a house share, so everyone's got their own bedroom. They're sharing a bathrooms, or they may have an ensuite, and they're sharing the kitchen, a bit like a student house share. Or you can do it by service apartments. Service apartments, more like running a hotel. You've got your rooms on, you've got your properties on Airbnb, Booking.com, that sort of thing. That is more of a time-intensive business, service accommodation, whereas HMO, it's a strategy where for the time invested and the money invested, you get a really good return. And we really like the HMO, House of Multiple Occupation strategy. And that's what we teach. And it's a very powerful business model because little money is required to start. You can be profitable quickly. You've got consistent recurring cash flow, and you've got the names and addresses of your perfect customers. Those are the HMO landlords, the house share landlords, because the council has a list of them and we explain all that in the program. But because it's easy to go in, sometimes people don't do it the right way. But the way that we're talking about is an ethical way, and it's a win for the landlord, it's a win for the housemates, and it's a win for you. What you might be surprised at is how few properties you actually need to have a really good business. And so what I want to just share with you is our first 5 properties. So this is number 1. It was a 5-bed HMO. And on this one, we were making over £600 a month. That's after we pay the landlord the rent, we pay all of the bills, we account for any times the room was empty or any rooms was empty. So after all of it, we make £605 a month. This is a 4-bed. It's over £400 a month profit. This is Llanthwy Road, an 8-bed after £1,222 a month. Another 5-bed, over £600 a month. And this was 5 flats in one block, and it was over £700 a month every month in profit, which is phenomenal. And remember, we haven't had to buy these properties. We're simply renting them. We're simply renting them from the owner. So after the first 5, it's £3,638 every month. But why 5 is the magic number is because after 1 year, after 1 month, after 1 year is one thing, but after 5 years, there's so much growth. Like this little baby to this little boy, so much growth. And it's the same in property. After 1 year, it's over £43,656. But after 5 years, it's over £218,000, which is incredible. And this is from 5 properties, which is not a full-time job. And people say to me, going back to the yearly amount, it's the average UK salary is 25 grand. So this is a lot more than the average UK salary. Most professionals are on more than the average UK salary, but you have to work a lot, whether you're on the average UK salary or not. Most people are working 40 hours a week, 40 years of their life. And with this, you can make a lot more money. And yes, you still get taxed, same as you do on your income, except it can be more tax efficient earning the money through a business. But you're just working part-time hours now, and you're making a lot of money on the side of your full-time job. And for some people, they use this income to leave their full-time job. Other people use this income to invest in property. So, but when you're starting, you have a lot of questions. And people often say to me, I'm not sure how this works, but in any case, it's okay for other people. But I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I'm too shy, or my accent is too strong. A lot of people, these are things that people say to me often. But I know for a fact that you are enough exactly as you are, because there are people younger than you who are successful in rent to rent, people older than you, people shyer than you, and people with accents stronger than you who just didn't let it become a barrier. Because you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So what you'll notice that we've moved from step 1, which is all about the rent to rent model, to step 3. What I've done here, because of time, I've missed out step 2. Step 2 is all about the mindset. And we talk a lot about how to make things a reality, because a lot of us know the right thing to do, but we don't have the impetus to do it, or we're busy and then fear gets in the way and we don't move forward. So the X factor ingredient to help you go from knowing the information to successfully implementing it is the mindset. And that's what we put in step 2. But I know when I go to talks like this, people are really more interested in the tactical parts of it and what you actually do rather than what you think. But what you think will really help you with what you do. So that's why I've skipped step 2 and we're going on to step 3, which is all about how to set up your business quickly and legally with little money, even if you have no experience in property or business. So this is a really pen and paper moment, because lots of people contact me and they say, I'm confused. I don't know how to set up this business. I don't know what I need to be legal and compliant. So this absolutely will take you step by step through what you need. So the first thing is you decide whether you're going to be a limited company or a sole trader. The next thing is you look at what your business values and your business name. The next thing is you open a bank account for your business. And so that's the first step. That's the company setup, the basics. Step 2, you get a telephone number for your business, a website domain, that's like the URL address, like in our case, it's hmoheaven.co.uk. You get your work email address sorted out. I think social media should really take a back seat, apart from you should put on your personal social media, if you use social media, that you're starting a property business, and let people know that you're in property now. So some of your posts should be about your new property business, because it's important that people know what you're doing, family and friends know, and so on. So step 3 is have a clear message. And people like to skip the first one, which is what your business offers. You need to really have a statement where you can really deliver concisely what your business offers, so that you can tell agents, you can tell landlords, you can put it on your website. It just gives you total clarity on what you're delivering, and it makes others believe in you as well. So the next things are the logo, the business card, and the web page. And then you're almost ready to go. The last part is all about the compliance and the legal parts and making you all up together and in order. So the first thing is that you need your insurance. You need public liability and professional indemnity insurance. You need your Information Commissioner's Office registration. You need to join a property redress scheme. All those 3 things are legal requirements. And then if you've got any local landlords or licensing schemes in your area, you need to join them. And optionally, if you choose to, you can join the National Residential Landlords Association or the Federation of Small Businesses. And finally, client money protection. There was new legislation that came in that said that, that all letting agents need to have client money protection. But we are not regarded as letting agents as far as that is concerned. And so this has been said by the property redress scheme. So you don't need client money protection under the national laws, but some local authorities do require it. So you'll just need to check if your local authority requires you to have it. But under the national law, you don't need it. Okay, so now we're coming into the question. People are like, well, why would a landlord give a property to me? I'm just like a normal person. Why would they walk past the letting agent and come to me, who's never done this before? And they do. And so I want to talk about the magnetic marketing. First of all, people buy with emotions and they justify with logic. For example, who here is Apple? Okay, I was going to say put an A, but if your Apple puts yes in the comments, and if your Androids put no, you can see which team I'm playing on, can't you? I'm already biased, but let me see what mix we've got and if people are correct here. Oh, we've got a lot of no's. Kemi, Asherjas, who else? Oh dear. Iwer is Apple. So we've got quite a few no's here. But what I know is if you are a no and you're an Android user, and tomorrow Apple was to come out with the best phone in the world, you probably wouldn't buy it because you're attached emotionally to the idea of being an Android user. And at the moment, I'm attached emotionally to the idea of being an Apple user. So we've got a lot of no's. There's not a lot of apples in here. But I might get booed off stage if I keep going. But you get what I mean. We're tapped into, it's not just how good is the product, is it meeting our emotional needs? And there's something emotionally wrapped up for us in whether we're Android or whether we're Apple. So to be successful, you really need to tap into what your customers, the landlords, are really looking for. And that's when they become magnetically attracted to you. Yes, Paul is also Apple. Okay. And the best strategy for getting direct to landlord deals is landlord letters. And this is the way to write magnetic marketing letters and to really enroll people so that they can emotionally connect. You start with the customer. You clearly solve your landlord's problems. You talk in the language of the landlord. And the number one aim of your letter is to inspire a landlord to call you to find out more. So you don't want to write too much. You don't want to give chapter and verse. You just want to do the things that are on this page. The letter formula is really simple. You start off with a pain point or solution statement that shows that you understand what their issues are. And then 2, you come on to the pain relief and you show that your solution delivers total relief. And here is an example. You might say, well, how do you do that? Here on screen is an example of a letter, and you will have a recording of this to be able to come back to it. And you can say that where I've got point 1, you can either have what the pains are, that the problems are, or you can have a solution statement. And here we've got a bit of both. On the left-hand side, we've got all the problems, and on the right-hand side, we've got all the solutions and why our service is amazing. So that's just to give you an example there. And we've also got a call to action. We ask people to call to get in touch. We need to let people know what we want them to do. What's the next step after they read this letter? We need to make sure that everything is in there. And when you do that, you will get landlords calling you. And Maria will be telling us about her experience a little bit later on. So one very powerful idea to take away with you, if you hate the idea of selling, is that you don't have to sell, because with our formula, you explain what you offer in the right way and the right landlords come to you. They will call you. Moving on to topic 5. This is another area people struggle because they say, well, will this property work? How will this property make money for me? Is this a good property? And it's how to analyze each deal in minutes and be able to do that deal with the right negotiation skills. So the biggest mistake that beginners make in rent to rent is misunderstanding the numbers. And the numbers don't lie. So how do you know if a deal stacks up? We've got the rent to rents that says deal analyzer. It prompts all the costs, including all of those ones that people normally miss out. And on the next slide again, it's another pen and paper moment, because we're going to give you all of the costs to look out for, to make sure that you have that you've accounted for, because you might get those sources, or sorcerers, as I sometimes call them. You might get sources telling you that a deal works, and you need to be able to check it out for yourself before you pay a penny and make sure that it really works. So you want to make sure if they give you If they say to you, this deal is going to cash flow over £1,000 a month, you need to make sure that it's got all of these figures in there. And after all of this, it's still going to cash flow £1,000 a month. So you need to make sure you've got in there the rent to the landlord or the agent, the gas, the electricity, the water, the council tax, the gardening, the cleaning, the contents insurance, the Wi-Fi. And although we're managing the property, or usually at the start you'll be managing the property yourself, you will have costs on spare room, etc. So you want to put an allowance for that. And we take on the costs of minor maintenance, not major. So you want to put an allowance for that. And we normally have voids are the empty rooms. They're somewhere between 0 and 1%. But also you want to make an allowance for that. And after you put all those costs in, if it's still a profitable deal, you know it's going to work for you. So what profit should you aim for? And what we do is we aim for £100 per room per month after all of the costs. And that gives you a really nice little business. You're renting the property and simply renting it out again. Finally, we're coming on to the step 6, which is all about how to outsource and automate to grow your profit and not your work. What you want is your business to go along on smooth tracks. You don't want to be running around like a headless chicken doing this and that. You want everything in order, and that's what we show you. We've done it by automating first and then outsourcing, so that now we've got a team of people who can do this for us. And that's what we show you how to do in the Kickstarter program. These are the 3 steps, the 3 pillars to easy outsourcing. You start off, first of all, with an online property management system. That's a software. You can use Arthur, GoTenant. Now there's a new one called Coho, which looks incredible. Then you move on to, you can use that and do it yourself. And then you go on to having a virtual assistant. The great thing about having a virtual assistant is you can get a virtual assistant in the UK, you can get a virtual assistant in the Philippines for as little as £3 an hour. And your virtual assistant will only work the hours, will only charge for the hours that they work, which means you can afford a virtual assistant even when you've only got maybe 1 or 2 properties, and they can do all of the online parts of it, which is a lot of it. And they can do it within your online property management software so that you can see and oversee what's doing. And then later on, when you get more properties, you can take on a team of people, or just even one person, depending. You can take on one person. Oops, sorry. Oh gosh, I'm getting a bit carried away here. What's going on? Oh dear. Just one moment. What have I done? Oh.
Stephanie, I think you're on slide 57.
Yes, yeah, I'm slide 57.
Okay.
58, yeah.
I've totally got wrong. Okay, just one moment. I'm finding myself. Yes, you are right. You are right. Gosh, you're paying more. Brilliant. So I'm gonna continue, resume share. Right, okay. Sorry about that, guys. So once you've got it sorted, you can then choose. You can have a nice little rent-to-rent business on the side of your full-time job as a side hustle, and maybe you've got a couple of properties. The low average for the lowest amount really for a 5-bed is £500 a month. So I've taken the lowest amount here and I've said, well, what about if somebody had 2 properties? They were making £500 a month on each one. They'd be making 12k a year. So that might be just exactly what you want, just a bit of extra money for your investments or what have you. Or you may want to go large and be a rent-to-rent rock star with over 10 properties, over 60k per year, or over 300k every 5 years. So you just lather, rinse, repeat, and you can make it as big or as small as you want it to be. So we're back here at the 6-step rent-to-rent success system, and today we've touched on 5 of them, with the important points in each one really to just kick you off and get you started. The other thing that you can do with rent-to-rent, which is very exciting, is that you can buy properties with little money. I think all of us actually want to own the own assets so that you can make money, not just only on the cash flow, but also on the capital appreciation. When the values of that property goes up, you're getting richer, you're getting wealthier. And also you can pass those assets on to your children and your children's children and so on, which is a very special thing to be able to do. And there's 2 ways. There are other ways, but there's 2 main ways that you can buy properties without having a mortgage, without having a big deposit. Basically, where you buy the properties over time, so you don't need a lot of money to get into actually owning the property. And the first one is called a lease option, and it's where you agree with the owner an option to buy a property by an agreed date for an agreed price. So you've got the option to buy, you can walk away if you want to. What that does is, say you agreed, I'll buy the property for £250,000 in 5 years' time. What that means is you can do the property up, you can rent it out, you can make money on it, but you can afford to improve it because you know in 5 years you're going to own it. In 5 years, also, the value of the property will have gone up and you'll have been making money on it all that 5 years' time. So you can save that money towards your deposit, or you can borrow money for your deposit, or you can just get a normal mortgage, or sometimes people's family and friends invest to help them to buy it. So that's a really exciting thing. And Maria has a lease option. We can talk to Maria about that in a moment. And the other one is called exchange with delayed completion. And this is where you're contracted to buy a property by an agreed date for an agreed price. The difference with the lease option is that with this one, you've made the contract to buy it, so you have to buy it. You cannot walk away. And both are transferable if it's written in the contract. So say if you would agree a lease option, but in 5 years' time, you don't want to buy it, you can sell that option to another investor and just take the money for it. So Maria, this is where I thought I would come and ask you to give your experience of having a lease option. Well, getting your first rent-to-rent deal and having a lease option. So I'm going to stop sharing temporarily, if that's okay, Maria.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe that is me in that picture. I think I've grown a bit bigger than that now. Yeah.
You look better now.
Thanks, Stephanie. This is I'm really passionate about properties. And I think it is something that right from when I was young, I've always been an avid lover of investments, including stocks and shares. And like you rightly said at the beginning of the session, initially I was doing buy to let, and then I ran out of cash, and I just felt there must be more I can do if I need to make money from properties. And that was when I came across Stephanie. Thanks for your mentorship over the years. And and just like what Stephanie said, sometimes we could tell ourselves, oh, I've got an accent, who will listen to me? Why would an estate agent listen to me? Or yes, maybe I'm too young or I'm too old. And I think those are just barriers we can get rid of. And thank God most of us on this call are children of God. We know we can deal with the fear factor. So my first rent-to-rent obviously was from a landlord. And this property was advertised on Rightmove through an estate agent, and it was an 8-bed property in London. And I remembered I walked into that property. Invariably, the landlord had a very bad experience with the previous tenant because the previous tenant vandalized the property. And so I came in there, just like Stephanie said, I just provided my strong pitch. And I assured him that, look, I'm going to look after your property. And, just also all the nice things I think the landlord wanted to hear. And I learned within a few minutes, I could tell from his body language that he's beginning to gain confidence and he's beginning to believe me. I just leverage on that. And because I was really what I was going to do, I was going to look after his property. I was going to make sure this past experience becomes a thing of the past. And because the area is an Article 4 area. So Article 4 area means it's an area that you can't just turn any house into an HMO without getting the license from the council. So I did all the paperwork, got the license from the council, and it's been 3 years. And it's been growing since then. I've had the 8-bedroom property for the past 3 years now. And that was just one out of many that I've acquired since then. And the cash flow, and these are properties I don't own, I don't have mortgage on them, and yet they give me more returns than the buy-to-let I have. So yeah, so that is why I think this is a strategy. If you're trying to get on the property ladder, you're trying to make extra money somewhere or things, and like I said in our WhatsApp group, there's nothing called permanent job these days. Big companies are going through organization review, strategy review, there are redundancies out there. Contracting that used to be a lucrative business is now subject to IR35. And when companies are talking of redundancy, the first people they want to get rid of are contractors. So I think this is a good strategy that I would really encourage us to start work on. And on lease options, yes, in a couple of my properties. And I think for lease option, this is good, especially when a property is on the market for sale and at the same time is on the market for rent. That is a good signal that yes, you can go on lease options. So I've got a couple of landlords who wanted to go abroad. They have properties in the UK and they want to sell in the future. They just want to hand it over to someone they can trust. And so I was able to leverage on 2 of my properties, got some lease options on them. And it's like I have total control over the property. And I've built confidence. I've built relationship with landlords over the years, such that even when there's an opportunity, when they have a friend that they want to, that is looking to let out this property, the first thing that comes to their mind, oh, we know someone that's been looking after our property, and they just recommend me. And I think I've acquired 3 other properties that way. So I don't know, I can go on and on, Stephanie, you know that.
I love that. You've touched on all the high points. I love it. One thing you said there, Maria, you rent-to-rent properties bring more cash flow than the property you own. And so the buy-to-let, but obviously with the buy-to-let, you're going to get the capital appreciations. That's just the difference. So it's a nice to have both. Excuse me. And for people who don't have the money to start off with buying property, it's a great way to get started. So thanks for giving us your insights there, Maria. And you didn't give the line that I love that you said when you came on the podcast, which was that the landlord fell in love with you, which I think that's so true, that because I was saying earlier about the emotions, people really can see your heart when they're speaking to you. And that's how they decide who they're going to give their property to. So thanks, Maria, for that. And this is one that we have. It's 4 self-contained flats, and this is an exchange with delayed completion. So like Maria's lease option, we didn't have to buy it with a mortgage or a big deposit. One of our landlords, we weren't managing this property for them, but they wanted to sell it and they knew that we existed. And so here's some of the before and afters from before we developed it to after we finished it. That we bought from them on an exchange with delayed completion. So I'll explain you how it worked. With the exchange with delayed completion, we agreed a date which was 5 years in the future, that we would be able to complete on this property 5 years in the future. And we agreed the price, 160K, because this is in London, obviously. And we agreed an option fee. Now the option fee can be anything from £1 to whatever you agree. And so we agreed a 10% of the price, which was £16,000. But for most people who are professional, even if 4 of you put £4,000, most people can stretch or find a way through credit cards or loans or somewhere to get the £16,000. And in your case, the option fee might be a lot less. Maria, what was the option fee when you bought when you agreed your lease option?
£1.
£1. So exactly, Maria did it the right way. Maria's got her lease option where it was £1. Brilliant. And the monthly payment that we pay to the owner is £320 a month. I don't know why it's so low. We asked the owner, that's one of the negotiation skills that we teach you. What would you like us to pay you? Because if we had said it first, we would have said a lot more. The amazing thing about this exchange with delayed completion is the £16,000 that we've already paid and the £320 we're paying every month is taken off the balance. So basically, we're paying the 160K over a 5-year. Well, we're paying some of the 160K over a 5-year period. And then, sorry, at the end, we're going to pay 124K. So the cash flow that we're making every month is £1,500. And over 5 years, because I like to look at everything as a 5-year block, is £90,000. But I should just explain here that because we refurbished the property and spent 60 grand, the 5-year cash flow for the first 5 years is 30 grand. But in the next 5 years and beyond, it's going to be 90 grand and more because these flats have turned out to be really popular. And so I know that we'll be able to put the rent up. So I just want to give you, as we're coming into the final few minutes, a few examples of people with rent to rent. Now you can see all of these videos that I'm showing the screenshots of on the Rent to Rent Success website. So it's rentsuccess.com. / their first name. So rentsuccess.com/Maria for Maria's video. This is Lois, rentsuccess.com/Lois. Lois does rent to rent in London. Lots of people ask me, does rent to rent work in London? Lots of people within Kickstarter are based in London, and yet it absolutely does work in London as well. And this is Joseph Daniels. He did rent to rent in lockdown. So he got 4 HMOs in the coronavirus lockdown in March 2020, last year. Can't believe it feels like it's so long ago, but it was last year. And he lost his job. His wife was expecting. He started the Kickstarter program. He's now got more than 4 HMOs and he's doing really well. Absolutely lovely guy as well. And then Mark, who started up on the very first Kickstarter program that we did, and he got 4 deals in 4 months, and he's gone on to do big things. He's a host of a PIN event, and he's done many other things as well, including buying properties now. And this is Shari. She did rent to rent in her 20s. She was worried about being too young and that the letting agents wouldn't take her seriously. And she got 2 rent to rents after starting and a cash flow of £800 per month. She was 26 when she started with us. And then we had Temi as well, who got her property within 4 weeks of starting. So all of these stories, if you want to hear it, people's own stories in their own words and actually see them on camera, it's renttoRentSuccess.com/Temi in this case. And what I want to give to you, because we've gone over the 6-step system, but you might want to go in more depth. You might still have questions that you want answering. So we do have a free Rent to Rent Success Guide and Masterclass. And if you go to renttoRentSuccess.com/NIFES, then you will be able to see both the guide, which is a booklet, and there's also a 90-minute training masterclass where we go in more detail on some of the topics we've talked about and give more examples and really take you into our first rent to rent, before and after, and so on. So if you want more information, renttoRentSuccess.com/NIFES. Oh, I didn't know you were going to talk about this, Maria. I forgot I put it in my, but Maria's going to talk about the book and give you the surprise about that. And just to say, for those of you who like listening to books, are you going to say something, Maria?
No, that's fine. Go on. Sorry.
For those of you who like listening to books, we've also got the book on Audible. And on Audible, let me ask you, are you a member of Audible where you get a book every month to listen to? Put Y, and if you're not, put no. Put N. Let's see if people are or aren't. There's a few votes coming in. Oh, so Kemi is, Blessed is, Adeanu's not, Sade's not, Obaje's not. Okay, well, good, because there are some no's. Because what Audible have done is that they've said that if you're not a member, they will let you have a free copy of the book on Audible. And I can see Lara's saying no, Stella's saying yes, Bishop saying no. So if you're not, just go to renttoRentSuccess.com/audible, right? And they will send you, and they'll give you a free copy of the book if you're not already a member of Audible. If you're already a member of Audible, they'll ask you to use your member credits to get the book. So that's a little bit extra if you're not already on Audible. So what we believe in for ourselves and what we love to share with other people is this message: believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer. Believe bigger is the first step, because you heard me say earlier that I was very on the back foot, let's put it politely, with finances for many decades. I didn't really understand how to manage my money effectively and how to use the little money that I had to really build myself up. And the first step was to believe more was possible for me and to realize that I could take the money I have and make it into more money. And that's the first step, through property. And I was lucky that I had that little moment where, you know, when there's a moment where your brain tells you, you feel like you've been punched in the belly, and you come to a realization that was obvious to everybody, that work isn't as important as your family. And there must be another way to live. And so believe bigger is the first step. Be bolder is the second step, because the first thing that happens as soon as you decide, make that decision, I'm going to do property, I am going to do rent to rent, I'm going to make money from properties I don't own, I'm going to do it ethically. As soon as you do that, your brain is going to get scared and say, oh, but you've never done this before. Oh, but you're older. Or, oh, but you don't know about business. And you're going to be worried as well that people are going to see you, your colleagues are going to see you, certain members of your family who are critical are going to see you. What about if you fail? But we have to be bold enough to live into our dreams. We have to be bold enough to stand up for what we want, rather than for people who we don't always even care about. And be a game changer is the last one, because when you decide to switch things up in this way, it's amazing, because you become a game changer in your own life, your family's life, your community, and also in our world. And that's one of the things that I'm most excited about. We're building up this big portfolio of blocks of flats. Some of them have 12 units, some of them have 4 units. I have one son, my sister has no children. And so we're leaving them in trust, in an accommodation and education trust, to help other young vulnerable people who struggle to get properties, like I did many years ago. Struggle to get the nice property, because letting agents don't always give you the nice properties, even if you have the money to pay for them. So that's how we're being game changers. And we also, through B1G1, the Business for Good charity, we give money every day in our business. When people join the Kickstarter program, the Rent to Rent Kickstarter program, or the Superstars program, we're also giving to charities, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and also Nigeria and Kenya. We've got different projects that we're giving to help both women to start in business, and also to help children with the equipment and the uniform they need to go to school. So it's a privilege to be able to be a giver as part of what we do. And finally, we would love to stay in touch with you and carry on the conversation, you know, beyond what we've had a chance to share with you today. So if you have your phone to hand, if you're on the Instagram, I would love if you would just follow, and any follows that I see come up. Let me just show you my profile. if anybody, any follows that come up today, I will follow you back. And the same on LinkedIn as well. And of course, we have the podcast if you want to see people tell their stories in their own words, and also the YouTube channel. And finally, just to remind you, if you did want the more in-depth, you can go to renttosuccess.com/NIFES. I don't know how you guys say it, NIFES. Then you will get the free guide and masterclass there as well. And yes, and thank you so much. It's obviously been brilliant to be here. Anything Maria asked me to do, I always want to do. So I will send the IG handle. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. That's really been great. I really appreciate your time and the presentation. I'm going to hand over to Thaddeus, who has been collecting some of the questions that we've got. And as he brings up those questions, you will be around to just answer them. So over to you, Thaddeus.
All right, thank you very much, Stephanie. That's a very huge one, I would say, and a lot to digest there. I've got only 2 questions, and can I encourage everyone who has a question to put them in the chat? The first one is from Bishop Ekong, and he said, when you rent these properties, if the condition of the properties are not good enough, can you improve the property without the landlord's permission in order to attract the right tenants to pay for more rent?
Yes, this is such a great question. Did you say Bishop? Bishop?
Yeah.
Yes, it's me. It's me that asked the question.
Oh, great question. So should you refurb the properties is a great question, because you may wonder, well, why should I improve somebody else's property? Because, you know, I'm in it short term, but it's their property long term. So what I say is, and what we've learned over the years is, in generally speaking, what we try to do is incentivize the owner to pay for it, but we're still going to make the money short term. But sometimes the owner might be not want to get involved. They might not have the money. They might not want to spend any money. They might have that mindset, but they might have given you the property on quite a low rent, reflecting the condition. And if that's the case, and you could make, say, £1,000 a month over a 5-year period, 60 grand, then it's worthwhile for you to spend, you know, 3 grand to tidy the property up. And we have spent more on properties in the past. So each person has their own limits. Like some people like to spend, if they'll get their money back within 3 months, they're okay. Other people, if they get the money back in 6 months, they're okay. Other people, if they get the money back in 9 months, they're okay. But so the short answer is, we try not to spend money on other people's properties to do them up, but there are instances where the property is so profitable that it's so worthwhile to make the small investment to be able to make the money back.
Okay.
Great question. Thanks, Bishop.
Thank you very much. Another one from Kemi. How do you evaluate demands for room in the local area?
That is a brilliant question as well. I'm loving this group. So Kemi, how you evaluate demand is, when you're looking at an area, there's certain things that you need to look for. And one is that there are people hubs, that there are plenty of people hubs around. What I mean by people hubs are like magnets. What are the places that people are going to? Universities, schools, large employers, you know, great transport links, shopping, restaurants. These are all people hubs. These are the places that people go. These are the places that people want to live. You need to make sure that your property is in a people hub. And the more people hubs that are around your location, the more resilient your property is. Because if you only had one large employer that was near you and that large employer moves, obviously you're not going to have as much demand. But if you've got a large employer, a hospital, a university, even if you're not renting to students, all of those things push up the demand for your property. So you need to be near people hubs. You need to be in an area with the right property type. So for example, oh, you're asking me about demand. So you need people hubs, and you need, you can look on Spare Room also to check the demand by looking at the type of rooms that are available in your area, the type of rentals that they're getting, how long the properties are staying online, so that you can just sort of check out what your gut instinct is. But where I advise people to start is in areas that are known to them, either areas they live in, areas they work in, areas they grew up in. That way, you can instinctively know, is this an area that people want to live in? Is this a street that people want to live in? If I was to put this property on the market tomorrow, you kind of know, is this a good area or not, if it's an area that you know? So that just makes the whole process the first time much easier when it's an area that you are familiar with. But in short answer, Kemi, people hubs, and you also want to check on Spare Room.
Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I think you may have answered this before, but let's see. Who takes responsibility for the maintenance of the property, repairs, etc.?
Great. Who's asked that question?
I think the handle is Dell. Not sure.
Dell. Dell.
Who that is.
Okay. Oh, it might be a name of a computer, but anyway, Dell. Who takes responsibility for the repairs? Another great question. So a typical way to arrange this if you're dealing with a landlord direct, it would be that the landlord does all of the major maintenance. So that's all of the fabric of the building, plus electricity, gas, water, anything affecting those. We also add that they deal with white goods. If any, washing machine, cooker, etc. needs replacing, then that's all for the property owner, right? What we deal with is what we call minor maintenance, which is things like replacing the shower curtain, a door handle's fallen off, everything else that's not like the fabric of the building. But we also have a limit financially that we put into the contract of how much we will pay towards maintenance.
Okay. Thank you very much. Another one from Ewere. Success stories. What about stories of those who rented and could not find tenants?
Say that again. What stories?
Okay. What about stories of those who rented but could not find
Ewere, but she called it, or he called it something stories.
Success. He started with success stories. Then
sources stories.
Success.
Oh, success stories.
Yeah. And then what about those who are not so successful?
Yeah. What about those who are not so successful? Okay, Ewere. Yeah. Great question. So basically, this is the number one concern of people. Exactly that. What about if I rent this property? Oh, yeah. And then I can't find tenants and I'm paying out. So what I want to explain is that when you take on the property, you will have a contract, and the contract that we use, you can find out more about it at renttoRentSuccess.com/contracts blog. But the contracts that we use has a one-way break clause, and what that means is that you can give notice, but they can't. And the reason is just for that reason that you've just said. But basically what we show you is how to identify the area, how to identify the property, how to identify the specific deal and know how much rent you can pay and still be profitable, and know that you will get demand for the property, etc. So, but if somebody, for example, didn't know about all of those things that we teach you, and they got into a deal and they couldn't rent it out, then they can negotiate and give the property back. Because for the landlord or for the letting agent, the nightmare scenario is this, that you stay in the property and don't pay them any rent, right? it's not a nightmare for them if you say, actually, I want to give the property back in 1 month's time or 2 months' time. I've paid up to date. Here's everything. Here's the keys. Goodbye. They're okay with that. It's an inconvenience, but they've got their property back and they can re-let it out. So you can do it by negotiation. You can do it by invoking the break clause. So this is what I want to say. As long as you are upstanding and you're honest and you're ethical in how you deal with people, it's not like you sign up for 3 to 5 years and you stick to that, even if no tenants are coming in and you're going to pay 3 to 5 months rent. The other thing that I say is usually it's not the case that you can't find tenants. Sometimes at the right price, every property will go. So you just have to think about those issues. There's usually a way to solve the problem. And I think if you get somebody experienced to help you, then there's usually a way for you to be able to fill your rooms. We've never had that problem where we've had a property and we've had to give it back because we can't find tenants for it.
Can I also add very quickly to that, Stephanie? And I need to add to that, Ewere, is because the demand is high right now and the supply is less. For example, today I got 4 people chasing me for just 1 room and had to make the difficult decision to reject so many people. So the demand is there. I think the key thing is making sure that that property is close to amenities, close to a station, close to schools, hospitals, and I mean, close to people hub, like Stephanie said. The demand is there. The supply is really, really short, really. Can you say that? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're having more and more questions, and I'll try to pick everyone. This one from Yemi, and it says, are you legally required to tell the landlord before renting out their properties?
Yeah, unfortunately. No, I'm only joking. But yeah, we do a contract with the landlord. It's just so it's all above board. And, everybody's happy with the situation. Yeah.
Sorry, a follow-up to that, Stephanie, please. So when you got the property from the landlord, they already know that it is rent to rent.
Yes.
Okay. So are you saying that even though you've agreed with them on the terms of rent to rent, whenever you're giving the house to another tenant, you still need to tell them?
Oh, no. Sorry. No, you don't need to tell them when you're giving out the house to tenants. What I mean to say is you sign the contract with the landlord to say, can I rent your property, please? And I'm going to rent it out to other people. And they sign the contract and you sign the contract, and that's all nice. And then when you invite the tenants in to move in, you don't go back and tell them.
Okay. Thank you very much. Another question from Ewere. How does the location of the property affect this business? Must it be close to a university? I think you've answered that by saying close to People's Hub. Yeah, or you want to add more to that?
No, I just think, as Maria said as well, it's just got to be with property, it's location. Be where people want to be.
Okay, thank you very much. One from Chidi. When you have more voids than occupancy, how do you manage that?
That's a great question as well. And it's very similar to Awere's question, what do you do if you can't find tenants? I think when there's a process. So when something happens, you always got to think, what's gone wrong in this process? And so how I assess it is, if people are not moving in to a room, then I will go to the advert first. On Spare Room, it shows you how many people looked at that advert. If you can see that a lot of people are looking at the advert, but nobody is clicking through, right? It means that your top picture that's advertising it is not right. If people are clicking on it, but they're not booking a viewing, it means either the price or the other pictures are not correct, are not attractive. So when people click through and find out more information, whatever's there, that's not working. If they're coming all the way to look at your property and then they're turning their nose up, there's something about the property itself that's not working. So whichever area where the problem is, you can then remedy that area. The number one area that I see that people struggle with is the photos, and that's the easiest bit to fix. And what we say is when you first get the property and you do it up and you make it look the best it's ever going to look, that is the time you get your professional photographer in, spend a bit of money, and then those are the photos that you roll out anytime that the rooms is coming empty, because we're all online nowadays. People are very visual. They don't want to imagine what it looks like with bedding on or whatever. They don't just want to see a bare mattress. And you know what, in the presentation, I had a few photographs of properties with the bed made up and everything like that. And that's the sort of photos that we put on the spare room. And then, as Maria said, then your rooms are going quickly because other people have just got the bare mattress.
Okay, thank you very, very much. One from Emeka. I said, how do you identify a property that will make a good deal?
Yes.
That's one. Oh, there are 3 questions here. Okay, so let's take that one first. How do you identify a property that will make a good deal?
Yes, great question, Emeka. These questions are good tonight. I like in this group. So basically, you want to make sure that the property has got a good layout. So when you go into the property, you know what I mean, when the property's been mashed up. And remember, with student lets and everybody knew each other, sometimes you could have a pokey little property and 4 students would share it and that would be fine, but you can't really have 4 strangers or 5 strangers in somewhere that feels a little bit pokey. So when you go in, does it feel like a nice house? Is the layout good for 5 or more strangers sharing? So layout, we've already talked about location. Licensing is important, just make sure it's got the right licensing it needs. And the other thing to look for in a property is the lifestyle. If you are renting to contractors, like people who are just coming to the area, working Monday to Friday, then going home somewhere else, then all they want to do is put their head down at night and go to sleep. So they just want parking and somewhere quiet. If you are renting out to young professionals, then they want to have shops nearby, restaurants, bars, and all of that. And they want to have good transport links because they're not usually, or sometimes they're not driving. So whatever lifestyle people want, you got to give them the lifestyle. So you got to have the layout, you got to have the location, you got to have the licensing, you got to have the lifestyle.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I think this one you've answered it before, but I'll just read it out. How do you identify the right location?
Yes, yeah. So as you said, it's people hubs, public transport links, the right property type in the location. Yeah, which we went into detail with a little bit earlier, yes.
Yeah. What size and type of property should you go for?
I would say HMOs, that's house shares, and you want to go for the best ones are 5 bedrooms and above, because like any cost center, you know, a property has costs, running costs, and the running costs on a 4-bed and a 5-bed are not that quite similar. But the income to the 4-bed is a lot lower than the income to the 5-bed. So the 5-bed is much more profitable. So 5 beds and above is a good cash flow. That means the landlord gets enough money and so do you. So I would say 5 beds and above.
Okay, thank you very much. This one from me. I've heard about whether it is a government regulation or law recently that for you to rent out to people, they need to have the right to rent. That's their immigration status. How do you go about checking the immigration status of the tenant you want to rent to?
Yeah, it is actually a much more simpler than it sounds. So what we've got, you know, within the Kickstarter program, we've actually given you a full onboarding step by step to how to onboard your tenants correctly. But for right to rent, where the tenant is a British citizen, then it's just passports or driving license. But where the tenant is an international citizen, is not and that they've got different credentials, then there's a government website, and we put the link to that within the course. So you just check what's required from whichever country they're from, and you ask them for it. So we ask them, we can see it when they come to the viewing, but because we're in an electronic age, when they're reserving the room, we just ask them to upload those documents as part of the reservation form process.
Okay, thank you very much. This one is from DM. Is rent to rent almost similar to being like lettings agent, estate agent? Does
Yes.
one need to register themselves?
Yeah, great question, DM. So actually, the Property Ombudsman, which is a government organization, it's called there are two, but the one that I'm going to talk about is called the Property Redress Scheme. And the Property Redress Scheme, it recognizes rent to rent, and it's got a guide for rent to renters. So we are like a lettings agent, but we're different. So a lettings agent, the main difference is this. With a lettings agent, what they're doing is they're collecting the landlord's rent. They're taking their commission and they're giving the landlord's rent to the landlord. That means that they are dealing with other people's money a lot, and that there are special restrictions that are just for them. With rent to rent, what we're doing is we're collecting our own rent. It's not the landlord's money. The landlord's rent is different to the rent that we collect. So when we collect the rent, it's not the landlord's rent. We then pay the landlord a separate rent. We're not just taking 10% out of the landlord's rent, we're collecting our own rent. So it's we're subletting the property. So it's a different setup. So there are different rules that at the moment, rent to renters don't have to go through everything that a letting agent has to go through at the moment, but that may change. So that's the situation right now, DM. So now it's easy. So now I think people, now is a great time to get involved in it.
Quite interesting to know. Sounds like you make more money than the agents, yet
yes,
lesser regulations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's why it may change, in coming years, but they can't change anything like that because they have to give time. So there's still time.
Good. Another one from Isaac. How do you find customers?
That's great. So I think you mean tenants, Isaac. So how we find tenants is on SpareRoom is the biggest, best online portal for shared rooms, for finding tenants for shared rooms. So we find most of our people through that, but you can also in your local area, speak to your local employers, your local recruitment agencies who are bringing people in all the time. What some of our people find is that when people are coming from overseas and they're coming to work in the UK, often they can't go to a normal lettings agency because they haven't got the right credit history. But if you find a good supplier where they're working for a good employer, and even though they haven't got the good credit history in this country, they've got good morals and values, then that's great because they can come to you and live with you.
Okay, thank you. Another one from me, please.
Yes.
How do you deal with difficult landlords and difficult tenants? Because I guess sometimes when you have these major repairs, some landlords may not be responding like you would.
Yes, totally. Being in business is the same as being like an employee in that situation, because you have all these relationships with colleagues, or you have relationships with landlords, or you have relationships with housemates. And we know that a lot of people on Friday night, it's just they're complaining about everything that's happened at work that week. But the good thing about it is that when you're in business as well, you do get to choose. So when we go into the property to see the landlords, it's like I was saying earlier, people show you who they are. That landlord fell in love with Maria because he could see her heart. And so when we go into the property now, we're just very open to who is this person. And as the person is showing you around, they show you who they are. So I remember how they talk about the house, how they talk about the tenants, how they talk about their history with the property, what questions they ask us. Like one landlord, if they're deluded, one landlord, we went into the lounge and the carpet had not been professionally fitted. It was really bad. It had 2 separate pieces of carpet. You know, the bay window area was a separate piece of carpet. It was really jaggy. It was all cut up. It was mashed up. And I said something about, he was asking about what upgrades we might need. And I said, we would need to replace the flooring and get some carpet fitted. And he said, this carpet has been fitted. So you know that if you're both looking at something, and it wasn't just slightly off, it was way off. And he's seeing one thing that's totally not how you see it, you can't go down the same road. Because when you tell that person the boiler's broken, they're going to tell you about how the boiler can last another 5 years, and they've got their friend's cousin's brother's dog who could come and repair it for you in 3 weeks' time in the middle of winter. So we just listen to who people tell us they are. And the second question you asked is, how do we deal with difficult housemates? So part one is on the viewings, we've realized there's 5 red flags with tenants. Some of them are that it's hard to get the information from them. And the other ones are when you meet them, they on the first date at the viewing, you're both putting your best foot forward, and all you want them to be is friendly and professional. That's it. They should also seem interested in the room and the property and in speaking to you. Now, if they can't do those things, like they seem disinterested in, they can't really relate, they've got some sort of, being a little bit nervous is fine, but to be in a house share, you have to be able to get on with people. So when people show up and they're on the viewing with you, they're never going to be better than that. So if they can't manage it and they're not considerate, or you get any red flags or alarm bells, then that's a no, because people show you who they are.
Okay, thank you very much. From DM, I may have missed this one, but how and where do you identify landlords?
Yeah, great question. So what we do is all of the house shares, houses of multiple occupation, they're on a list, and every local authority has a list of the HMOs in their area, and they have to make it public because that is the law. It's a public register, so they have to give it to you. So we've got the text of how to request this from the council, and some of the councils are tricksy because they don't want to give it, because then the landlords are getting letters and the landlords complain to them. But we've got a second letter that you send back reminding them of their legal obligations so that you can get the letter. So that's one way. You can track them online by going on portals like Open Rent and Spare Room and Gumtree to say, hey, you've got a property, Mr. Landlord, do you want to give it to me, or Mrs. Landlord? So there are different online ways, and then you've got the letters. Those are the main 2 ways, yes. Oh, and letting agents, sorry, you can ask letting agents for them.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Two more questions, and that'll be it. Sorry, Emeka says, I think you've touched on this before, but maybe on another front. How do you mitigate against a tenant trashing their property when they leave?
Yeah, we haven't had this one, but we have had tenants who've caused damage. Usually it's accidental, and we just charge them and take it out of their deposit. But we haven't had anyone actually go and take, actually try to damage something and trash the whole place. No, it's been like there's been a stained mattress, or somebody's broken something. And so we just deduct it from the deposit.
Okay, thank you very much. And last question from Anastasia. When there is a maintenance issue at the property, whose responsibility will it be to fix it, please? Or will it be the landlord's or yours?
Yeah, great question, Anastasia. And basically, if it's to do with the fabric of the building or the electric, the gas, the water, the roof, all the big things like that, that's the landlord. If it's minor maintenance like door handles falling off or shower curtains need replacing, then that's us. So, but basically the landlord's paying for their own property. If it's little things, then we will get it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will hand over to Maria.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie. And I think the good thing, I mean, thanks, Stephanie, for giving us this offer. This book on Amazon sells for £9.99, and Stephanie is giving us at a I can't, in fact, I don't know whether to call that a discount, at a huge offer. And I don't want, I believe most of us on this call are not part of those this cottage that says that Black people, if you want to have something from a Black man, just put it in a book. We are not that kind of people.
Oh.
So I want to really encourage us to get our hands on this book. I think we're going to give it out at a discount. We're just going to take maybe 49 pence out of it, offer it to us at £9.50. If you're interested, we only have very few copies. Just put it on the chat, send a message to Oyiye or Kemi on the Zoom call, and then put your mobile number in there, and we'll give you the account details that you'll be sending this book on this money to. And also, someone just corrected, we are not Black. Okay, brown skin. Okay, so what? And every proceed that comes from this book will be going towards our charity, NIFES. This is a Christian body that sponsors student body in Nigeria, the Christian Student Fellowship in Nigeria. Every proceed from this book will be going towards that. So please, I want to encourage us, let's get this book. All the questions we have, I can tell you, time will fail us to get Stephanie to answer all the questions, but we can get a lot of this information in a book. And Stephanie has gladly given us the free masterclass as well, which I really want to encourage us to go on there and take on the free training materials. So please send it. Please put in your mobile number or your details on Zoom so that people can reach out to you. It's going to be first come, first serve. We have very limited copies. Please get to us, and so that we can start. Thanks, Stephanie, for that. And yes, please, Broye, put your details on the Zoom. Let people contact you. Put in your name, your telephone number, and if possible, put your address. We'll post this book across to you. First come, first serve. We have very limited copies. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You know, I cannot say thank you enough. Thank you for your time. This is, I'm sure, I echo what everybody has said on the call. We say a big thank you. Thank you for making the time to talk to us about rent to rent. Thank you so much.
Well,
Kemi.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Kemi. Thanks, Onye. It's been great joining you. I've really loved it, and it's been a privilege. So thanks. I hope it's been useful. And if anybody has any questions, you know, later on, I'm available on Insta and other places.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. It's really been a great evening and very enlightening, to say the least. I'm sure quite a lot of us have learned something great tonight. And the webinar is recorded, and we'll be sharing the link so that people can go back and refresh their memory and also take necessary steps. The difference between success and failure is action, and it's a very thin line. So we're hoping that people won't just listen to it and go as, oh, good webinar, but some people will definitely be taking action, and you'll be hearing from some of us even after now. On that note, I want to say thank you to everyone that has spared their evening to participate, either in attendance or listening mode or asking questions. It's been a very collaborative evening, and I want to say thank you as I close the session. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks so much. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.